Now for global business updates, Rotus Oddiri joins us live from Casablanca, Morocco, where the 2024 Africa Financial Industry Summit is taking place. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning to all our viewers out there, and welcome to Money Monday. So, yes, as you said, Dr. Abati, the Africa Financial Industry Summit and we are going to be talking a lot about how Africa can pretty much try to sustain itself. There are going to be a lot of discussions on climate financing, on the financial sector around the various countries here on the continent, with everything that is going on around the world, from geopolitical concerns to fossil fuels, because we know a lot of countries on the African continent are commodity dependent. So lots to discuss. We'll bring you a lot coming here from Casablanca. Speaking of fossil fuels, let me just segue into oil. Oil prices edging up. Look, you notice Brent crude is at 71. West Texas Intermediate is at what, 67.59. Those prices were at 73 and 70 respectively through last week, although we're dipping up and down. The latest concerns now from Syria, with Assad fleeing to Russia, his government falling after 50+ years, and no one pretty much knowing what to expect from the new folks who are in charge there. So oil prices are there's still a lot of worry about the demand outlook for oil, particularly with weakness from China. Speaking of weakness and China, let's go to the Asian markets. Blood red this morning, and again still led by Korea. I think Korea now has fallen to a one-year low. I'm referring to the Kospi in Korea, down by over 2 percentage points this morning. As you all know, President Yoon survived an impeachment over the weekend, but opposition still wants him to resign. And we understand that, according to local reports in Korea, that there's some criminal charges of treason that are going to be brought against him. So there's still a lot of turmoil in Korea. The financial authorities there saying that, look, let's be calm. We have enough liquidity, but it's not helping things. You can see markets in everywhere. China, Hong Kong, falling as well. Let's get to China. The deflationary environment still remains in China. We got inflation figures. Let's start with consumer price inflation in the second largest economy in the world, 0.2%. That's year on year, right? The forecast was for 0.5, so it came in below forecast. October was 0.3. Core inflation that strips out volatile food and energy coming in at 0.3%, edging up a little bit, but it's still pretty low. If you go to producer price inflation, PPI, that's where you're still seeing a lot of pressure on factory gate prices. You can see it fell by 2.5% in November, similar to where it was in October. The expectations were for a bigger drop of 2.8%. But the key thing here is that this is the 26th month of decline for producer prices in China. So, prices are still very weak. You still got issues with the property sector and so on and so forth. You've still got Donald Trump coming into office. So China is really facing a whole lot of issues, and part of the reason why there's a lot of weak forecasts for oil in 2025. I can't wait for 2025. It's going to be such a... We move to Europe. We can't talk about South Korea without talking about France. Fitch put out a note on Friday saying that their outlook on the French economy has dimmed after the government collapsed, with Barnier being kicked out after just 3 months. So what Fitch is saying, that they are expecting GDP now in France to grow by 0.9% in 2025. The prior forecast was for 1.2% growth for the French economy. By the way, the second largest economy in the Eurozone after Germany. The deficit, Fitch is looking at the deficit still staying above 5%. I remember Dr. Abati talking about this last week. It's forecast to be, 6% this year and falling. They wanted to bring it down to 5.1, but they're saying that Fitch's outlook is that that's not going to be possible. And then, worst of all, the government debts, they're forecasting to be about 118% of GDP through to 2028. So still a lot of weakness there for France. But going to the US, we previewed the jobs numbers on Friday. They did actually rebound. The non-farm payrolls coming in at 227,000 in the US. The forecast was for 214, so beats the forecast. from about 12,000 jobs to 36,000 jobs. Remember, there were the hurricanes, there were strikes, a lot of impact on job growth in the U.S. in October. Unemployment ticked up just a tad from 4.1% to 4.2%. Finally, I mean, back to the Africa Financial Industry Summit. The Nigeria Securities and Exchange Commission is here. We're looking forward to speaking with the Director General, Mr. Rotimi, about a whole lot. I mean, you can see the SEC in the U.S. under new leadership that is more crypto-friendly. So we're going to be talking to him about the capital markets here in Nigeria, what to expect in 2025, whether Nigeria is going to be more accommodating of Bitcoin and so on and so forth. So a whole lot to look forward to this week, and that's our update for today.
So a couple of things, Rotus. Number one is then, how is France going to get out of this quagmire? Because they have said they don't want that austerity bill. Things are very, very fluid as we speak. What it will be now is that if they can make an agreement, maybe from the 20th, they have to dip into an emergency fund and spend for the budget, which will also continue to increase the backlog. And at the same time, growth is very, very tepid. I mean, I don't see the ray of hope that's going to come out of the French economy. And it's just going to have a political imbroglio, all of that. So is it now best? Probably Macron. Anyway, Macron has said he's not going to resign. But he needs to be able to reign in that parliament because they will continue to give him problems. Since they have smelt blood, it will continue. At some point down the road, will he probably say, you know what, let me take the high road? Time will tell. It's just a very sad one that is happening for France as we speak. 118% of GDP by 2028. It's obvious that politicians project things, but it never happened. All the plans that he said he had in his book, La Révolution, all of them have not come to pass. Macron's advocacy then was that we don't have new French companies that are part of the CAC 40, that most of the companies there are maybe over 30, 40 years old. Till date, check, Rotus, there's been no new French company created in the last 5, 10 years that is a member of that CAC 40. Most of those elite companies out of France. It's the like of the Sanofis of this world and the LVMH and companies that have been there for many, many years. It's just sad. He's not been able to strike anything and achieve anything. And this imbroglio will only continue.
Well, let's just a quick look at the U.S. job numbers. So the positive numbers recorded, 227,000 jobs added, surpassing the postulations of about 200,000 jobs added, following quite a downer in October. What the sectors are responsible for this largely healthcare, government, and leisure industry. 28,000 jobs were said to have been lost in the retail sector, and this came about as being surprising because one would have expected that following the sales, as we get closer to the festive season, Black Friday and all, it would reflect in the numbers. But they're saying because it was closer to the end of the month, so we're looking at even more positive numbers come December for November job numbers as a result of these additions to the jobs secured. But of course, still a number of work to be done, particularly with regards to pay grade. That's still work that needs to be done in the U.S. But positive for them, it's one of the best run in over many months of job numbers in the U.S. since records have been known. But let me also talk about TikTok this morning. I know we've been talking about TikTok and the ban or the potential ban. January 19th is D-Day. And the appeal court has upheld the ruling by the court saying that if ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, does not sell to another company, they're going to ban TikTok in the United States of America. Two options for them now. One is they say they're going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, but it's very unlikely that the Supreme Court will rule away from what the appeal court has ruled in terms of TikTok being banned as a result of national security. Also, looking at the Trump factor, even though initially Trump had said he was not in support, he would ban TikTok. He's capitulated and gone to say that he will not ban TikTok, but he can only give a 90-day extension. But we'll see how that plays out for them. TikTok has 170 million subscribers in the United States. It's baffling as to why they would not choose the option to sell rather than lose out completely their U.S. market. But they are being very stubborn or adamant about this. Let's see how this plays out. January 19 is just a few more, like a month and a few more days to see whether or not TikTok, the end of TikTok in the United States of America has come. Okay,
on TikTok, the Federal Appeals Court voted unanimously to dismiss TikTok's plea that this was, a violation of the First Amendment and the rights of their 170 million subscribers. But they're saying they will go all the way to the Supreme Court. So when the matter gets to the Supreme Court, that will be the final destination in terms of what the court decides on that. As for the job numbers coming in at 27,000, that's higher than the economists, the analysts expected, and 4.2% unemployment rate. But the big story about the United States is that next week, the Federal Reserve is going to take a decision. Traders are looking forward to that decision, and the expectation is that it will be about 25 basis points. You talked about Asia markets being mixed. Yes, the KOSPI is down by 2.6%, 2.3%, and is the benchmark rate. The KOSDAQ is down by about 4.1%, and you already indicated why that is the case. But you said that President Yoon is being investigated. Yes, but even his own party leader wants him removed because the leader of the People's Power Party, despite the fact that the members, boycotted the impeachment vote and the opposition could not get the 200 required number, members of his own party are saying he will still have to resign and leave the place. But of course, you can see the effect on the economy. As for China, in September, China introduced a slate of measures, including risk costs, support for the property and stock market, and also, reviewing the lending rate. But what it means is that consumption is still very weak. And then also, those measures are not really working. So this will have an impact in terms of GDP growth, and that's why you find that China is still in deflation territory. But the bigger issue, oil. Yesterday, Saudi Aramco decided to reduce prices, the lowest offer to the markets in 21 years for the January, prices. But then, of course, you then had the problem in Syria, which was responsible for oil prices edging up, Brent crude gaining 22 cents, and also WTI crude gaining 22 cents in the futures for January. But generally, we see again a reconfirmation with the problem in France, which you mentioned, with the crisis in Syria, with the issues in South Korea, with the issue in Georgia, where people are also protesting. A global uncertainty. The question is, how will this affect the markets? We usually talk about the December rally. Will it affect the markets? Maybe nobody is so sure yet, but we have seen the example, at least in South Korea. We have also seen the example of France, where GDP growth is at about 0.9% in the face of the collapse of the government led by Michel Barnier. Thank you very much, Rotus. We look forward to more details from the AFIS conference, and take time out to enjoy Casablanca with the various white buildings around the place and the white spaces and all of that. Thank you very much.